So the real question here is, what are you going to do as we continue to see the systems that have supported our society for generations continue to collapse? I mean, we've got everything going on right now. We are on the brink of a completely new global paradigm. We've got wars going on. We've got a shifting of global power. We've got famines. We've got natural disasters. Right now in the United States, the Federal Reserve is literally raising interest rates as they are also giving billions of dollars to banks, commercial banks. Look at this graph. In the last year, how much money right now the Fed is just giving to banks. They're burning the candlestick at both ends, and it's only a matter of time until we start to see these things begin to unravel. And everybody who is into cryptocurrency, myself included, one of the most common things I hear is, well, Jason, if the whole world is falling apart, why are you still so bullish on Bitcoin, right? What is Bitcoin going to do for you if all these other things are falling apart? Well, here's the thing. For me, Bitcoin is just one piece of the puzzle. And I believe that we all have a choice to make in these very important times. We can choose to do everything we can to put ourselves in the most advantageous situation possible to not only survive, but even thrive and benefit from the things that are coming. Or we could just roll over and allow ourselves to be put in bondage and to be put in a very disadvantageous situation. And so the way I approach this kind of mindset as we are moving into uncertain times is I ask myself this very simple question. How am I a slave? What things in my life are making me dependent upon an external system in order for my daily survival? Is it a job? Is it food source? Is it water source? Is it the currency that I'm using? Is it my housing situation? Now, for me, I look at all these things and I ask myself, how can I take all of these different spheres of my life and put them back under my own sovereignty? How can I make my employment situation dependent upon me and not dependent upon some corrupt company? How can I make my food supply dependent upon me and not dependent on the supply chain or the economic situation in the country? How can I ensure that the currency I'm using is not going to be devaluing over time, so I'm working so hard to accumulate all this currency only for it to be losing purchasing power? How can I ensure that where I live, the house, the roof over my head, is under my own sovereignty and not dependent on somebody else? All right, so I believe everybody needs to be looking at what is happening and come up with a comprehensive plan to become a little bit more self-sufficient. And in my opinion, Bitcoin and crypto is one of the pieces to this puzzle, which is why I am currently in the crypto space, which is why I got into crypto in the first place, which is why I trade cryptocurrency, right? But there are many pieces to this puzzle. And so these are some things that I believe everybody needs to think about when they are looking at what is happening right now in the world. And the first thing is this, right? The job situation. The job situation is so important. Unfortunately, we have been deceived by the government that job creation is a good thing for society, right? We've seen a war on poverty that began back in JFK's day. And since that time, Americans have gotten more and more impoverished. Why is that? Because it has subtly changed the mindset of your average person from basically having the mindset that I am going to take the skills and the passions that I have and I'm going to use those to create value and add to society and simultaneously benefit and monetize those skills, to looking for a job where I can work for somebody else and get paid fiat money, which is going to devalue over time. I truly believe that every single human being, whether you are a single mother or you are a married man with multiple children, whatever situation you find yourself in, you have skills that can be taken and monetized and provide value to your local community. And this is called being a business owner, being an entrepreneur. Now, when you own a business, this is one of the best hedges against inflation, because a business is an asset that is constantly generating a cash flow. If you are working a job for a fixed salary, that fixed salary may not change with the rate of inflation. However, if you own a business, the amount of money you charge for your services or goods will go up with inflation. In a sense, a business is an inflation-proof asset. And it can also generate income regardless of the purchasing power of the dollar. It can generate income regardless of whether or not we're even using dollars. In a lot of ways, owning your own business is a way to exist outside of the system. And not only does it help you as an individual, but it helps other people around you. If you are a roofer, just to use a basic example, you are providing value to people that don't have the skills to put a new roof on their house. You are helping the community and you are monetizing your skill, and it's a win-win situation. And so I think everybody should be looking for things to do. My mom, for example, right? My mom, she owned her own business when I was a kid. And what she did was she had a home daycare. She watched other people's kids, and she was very, very good with young kids. My mom, amazing with young kids. And she took this skill that she had, she monetized it to make money and support her family. She was also helping out the community by other mothers and parents that had to work all day. She was watching their kids for them and providing them and enriching the kids while the parents could work. And it's a win-win situation, right? So that is one of the things I think everybody should try and do. And the second thing is learning how to invest in some capacity. This is why I got into cryptocurrency in the first place, because I looked at what was happening with the dollar and I said, man, if I am going to be saving my dollars, these things are going to become worthless. Look at what has happened since 1913. The Federal Reserve is created, and then we can see literally 97% of the dollar's purchasing power has gone away since 1913. It's been 100 years, 97% of the purchasing power is gone. That means if you had $1 in 1913, that $1 is now worth 3 cents. That is crazy. If you can learn how to invest, this again is a hedge against inflation. People scoff at the idea that Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation because we dump so hard when we reach the top of these bull markets. Well, look, if you've been dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin from the all-time high at $69,000, you are currently up right now 10% on your investment. If you have gotten into cryptocurrency back in previous cycles, you are up massive percentages on your initial investment. And I believe that, especially right now, these are times where we can look at emerging technologies, assets like cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin, and say, look, this is a very, very unique opportunity that we have, a historic opportunity to potentially not only preserve the purchasing power of the money that we already have, but to increase the purchasing power. Because if we can learn how to invest on smaller term timeframes, we can make money faster than the rate of inflation, right? This is why I like trading so much. This is why I got into trading, right? I have made about a Bitcoin in this trade right now, and I have other trades open as well that are accumulating Bitcoin and USDT, and I am doing this on small time frames, taking advantage of the volatility. And of course, in my opinion, I am making money now faster through these investments, growing my investments faster than inflation can take away that purchasing power. And in addition to that, I'm getting my profits in a mixture of Bitcoin and Tether, right? So, by the way, if this is something you want to learn, check out the course at jasoncaspertrading.com, because this is the comprehensive trading course that will give you the blueprint to learn this from a point A to point Z comprehensive system so that you always know where you're looking for a trade, stop loss, take profit, all that stuff. Also, if you want to join a thriving community of traders where we give setups in advance like these two that played out perfectly. It's not a signals group, but it's a TA group. It will help you learn. You can go to patreon.com/JasonCasper. Also, to take advantage of trading on exchanges like ByBit, where you don't even have to provide your identity to trade. 0% limit fees if you use my affiliate link in the description of this video. It's actually a really good deal for people who know how to trade. If you don't know how to trade, please stay away from trading because it will rob you of everything you own. But that's a whole nother story. So another thing that's very important, guys, is diversifying, right? Don't keep all your eggs in one basket. When I was a young lad, my grandpappy would always tell me, son, if you want to get into investing, don't you ever put all your eggs in one basket, okay? Now, I'm out here at the chicken coop about to put all my eggs into one basket. Let's see how that goes for me, all right? This is why I am such a proponent, if you follow the channel, of not only having cryptocurrency, but holding cash as well, like, taking your money out of the bank, holding cash. Keep some in the bank, keep some in cash, keep some in crypto. Physical precious metals, gold, silver. And I'm a huge proponent of actually owning the physical metal, because if you're going to own paper metal, do you understand that most of that paper silver doesn't actually have the physical silver to back it up? I think it's a 43-to-1 ratio. In other words, there's 43 times more paper silver than there is physical silver. So if the markets collapse, you're not going to have that actual silver to back up your investment. This is why I'm such a huge proponent of tangible assets, real estate, owning land, gardens, animals. These things are real wealth, and they will always hold their intrinsic value. And if you can take your purchasing power and spread it out into a mixture of notes, debt notes from the Fed, cryptocurrencies, but then, gold, silver, land, animals, growing gardens, this will hedge you from multiple different things that could come your way, right? Food is such a big thing. I'm a huge proponent of growing your own food, and I look at growing your own food as an investment. You're taking your money, you're putting it into building gardens, building and raising animals and stuff like that, which brings me to my next point, guys. Homesteading. I am a homesteader. I raise my own food. I raise my own animals. This is a huge passion of mine. And it's because not only do I believe it's the way God created humans to live, to be able to grow our own food and to be close with the creation like that and to know where our food is coming from, but you can't eat gold and you cannot eat Bitcoin. You can't eat money. All the money in the world is not going to help you if there's no food in the grocery store. And we are so dependent right now. We are slaves to the supply chain. There's only a 3-day supply of food in your average grocery store. If something happens, if they close down interstate travel or something like that, there's going to be no food. And in addition to that, well, I'm not going to go down that path, but it's very important that everybody does something to provide and produce your own food for yourself, for your family, for your community. Only 100 years ago, everybody grew their own food to some capacity. Both of my grandparents grew up in very different environments. On my dad's side, he grew up on a farm, raising goats, raising chickens, growing his own food. On my mom's side, he grew up in Cuba. He was basically, his family worked for a sugar mill, and in exchange for the work, they were basically kind of like slaves in a sense, or not slaves, but it was like feudalism, right? The sugar mill was the lords, and then they were the peasants, and the sugar mill provided them housing and all this stuff. But they grew food. They raised chickens. They grew gardens. And even in the United States, you have things like victory gardens where communities were coming together and growing food to kind of help against inflation and all these hardships that we had to go through during past wars. Nowadays, nobody grows food. People will spend money to keep their front grass green, but they won't invest in learning how to maybe grow some potatoes in that same plot of land. What are you going to do when there's no food? Now you're a complete slave to the government, because whatever they say, you have to do because your very life depends on it. If you have grass, you should at least be growing some dang potatoes. If you can, have a few chickens, right? These things are very easy and simple to do, and they will enrich your life very much. They will prevent you from becoming a slave. Now, I have to say that all of these things are very important. And as we see our society, I'm talking about the United States and the West in particular, heading into a period of dependence on the government and bondage in many different ways. We have become so complacent and spoiled that we have forgotten our own mortality. We have forgotten that we don't even have control over the simplest things in life, like whether we have another meal, whether we draw another breath. And that is why it is so important, if we are going to be going down the path of freedom and liberty and independence, that we need to have faith in God. This is a cycle that all societies go through. And let me move my face so that we can see this, right? It starts out with bondage. And then from bondage comes spiritual faith. And from spiritual faith comes courage. And then from that comes liberty. And then from that comes abundance. From that, selfishness, complacency, apathy, dependence, and bondage. We are clearly right here in the dependence and bondage zone, right? We have become apathetic, we have become dependent, and we are heading into bondage. Throughout all periods, throughout all societies, liberty and abundance comes through strong spiritual faith. Now, for me, if you follow the channel, you know I'm a believer in Jesus the Messiah. I believe he is God in the flesh. I believe he was crucified, that he rose again on the third day to pay for the sin of mankind so that we can be born again into eternal life, so that we have the hope of a physical, bodily resurrection, so we can exist in the state that mankind was originally created to live before sin entered into the creation. But for a society, it doesn't have to be Christianity. It could be anything that unites people together under a single meta-narrative that gives transcendent meaning and purpose, that goes beyond the here and now. Our society has lost all semblance of a meta-narrative. And what I mean by that is some kind of transcendent purpose that gives us meaning in life and a drive to continue and perpetuate our generations and work hard and build things and become self-sufficient. We have completely lost that. And our society as a whole in this kind of like postmodern era is very strange, because in a lot of ways we've thrown spirituality out the window, and a lot of naturalistic, atheistic views. And even when there is spirituality, it's not cohesive. You have a lot of people saying, look, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. But that is not cohesive, because there's no single meta-narrative that is uniting our society together so that we can build strong communities and a strong society. Without that spiritual framework, a society will fall apart. And it's my personal belief that the reason the West has been so blessed is because we've collectively been a God-fearing society with a biblical worldview, having a biblical morality and a biblical system of ethics that has given us cohesion as a society. And now that is completely eroded as we're heading into this dependence and bondage. And so it's my belief that if we, as a collective, turn back to God as a society to repent of the things that we know are self-destructive, contrary to the way God has created humanity to be. And if we can collectively get back to understanding that there is a meta-narrative, something greater than us that transcends us, this is going to be the true key to surviving what is coming upon the earth. Because without that, we are not going to be united in any way. And we are probably going to do more harm to ourselves than any kind of tyrannical government could possibly do to us. So guys, I know this isn't really a cryptocurrency video, but make sure to like, subscribe, click the bell. May God bless you all in Jesus' name. Look, even if you're not religious, even if you have a different religious view, that's totally fine with me, right? I'm all about conversation. I'm all about keeping it real, having real discussions without anybody getting offended by it. That is what makes Western society great. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.